Right, we can head back to Edgbaston now, under 90 minutes until the first ball. We can join our reporter Rob Jones, who's with two Ashes legends. Rob.
Well, some level of test match batting expertise alongside me. Just the 64 test centuries between Ricky Ponting and Kevin Pietersen. Take me through your emotions then. First morning of an Ashes series, how did you used to be, KP?
The more Ashes you play, the worse it becomes. I think at the start of your career, there's the excitement, there's that joy, there's that jubilation, and there's also, having not played against these guys for a while, or on certain occasions, you don't have that mental scarring. So for some of the guys that are playing their first series, yes, there will be that anticipation of calmness, but also fear, and then also that youthful experience of thinking this is just the greatest thing ever, not sleeping last night, waking up this morning and going, this is an Ashes series and I cannot wait. For the guys that have played around and been around for a while, it can be a very nervous morning, just purely because of the fact that mental scarring is something that happens. And because as an English player or as an Australian player, I don't know if Ricky agrees, but I think your career is defined on how you play an Ashes series. So when that level of expectation is there and you've been around the block for a while, these mornings can be tricky. But at the start of your career, I just think, and I speak personally, that first test match we played against these guys in 2005, I was just buzzing. But the more you play, the longer in your career you get. I remember a couple of test matches in Brisbane and a couple of the other test matches, you're just thinking, oh no, okay, where's this going to
be a long series.
Where are we going to go here?
How important did you feel that the first morning was for setting the tone? And I'll take you back to 2005, and I know we English always talk about 2005, but when Steve Harmison hit you at Lord's, did you think, wow, this is a different England team?
Well, he hit most of us that morning, actually. Thinking back, I think Kadich had been hit early, Matty Hayden got one on the helmet, Justin got hit on the elbow, I reckon. So it was on for young and old, but that's what you expected with an Ashes series. You know, we didn't expect anything else. Post that, Harmy sort of come to me and said, oh, we wish I could have come down and said something to you, but I didn't need him to say anything to me. I mean, that's, as I said, that's what I expected, and you could tell that they were up and about for the challenge. You could actually feel that was a slightly different England team that we were coming up against, and that was proven through those 5 test matches. The Lord's test went our way, but the way that England were able to bounce back and fight back after that first day at Lord's was quite remarkable and ended up being one of the all-time great test series. But, I'll back up what Kev said there about the younger guys in this England side. It's their biggest challenge today, I think, as to how they handle the situation. They've been playing a certain way for a long time. Can they do that today? Can they do it because they're not worried about those mental scars? So it's an interesting little mix-up. We've got a very experienced Australian side, a lot of English players that haven't played Ashes, and that's why I think it's such an intriguing start to this series. I can't wait.
The message all the way through from Ben Stokes in England is, we will play the same. We don't care that it's the Ashes. Was it easy to play your own way in 05 because you had no experience of international cricket, so you came straight? I know you'd play the eyes, but you thought, I'll just come in and be Kevin Pietersen.
Well, yes, because we had the backing of the dressing room, had the backing of Duncan Fletcher, and had the backing of Michael Vaughan. And I think the nice thing about this England team is it's not bluff, and I do really see a very calm dressing room. And if you get out this first morning, if a guy gets out caught at deep square leg having a pull shot on the 3rd ball of the Ashes, he's not going to walk back into a dressing room and sit there thinking, oh my goodness, I'm going to get a spray from the captain, the players are going to look at me in a way, and then the coach is going to look at me in a way and just pull me aside and say, what on earth were you doing? The longer I played, that became an issue. However, at the start of my career in that particular Ashes series, Duncan Fletcher and Michael Vaughan, and on that first morning here in Edgbaston, when we got 408, I think, against the Australians, they said, guys, we've been humiliated at Lord's, just go out and bash Australia. Whatever you can, whenever you get the opportunity, just do it and do it well. And that's the psyche that we took into it. So it can work against Australia, but you have to have the players that are good enough. And that's my concern about England. I don't think the 1, 2 and 3, and please prove me wrong over this next 5 or 6 weeks, guys, but I don't think 1, 2 and 3 are good enough to play that way.
You'd have played in some teams where top 7, probably 4 of you at any one time, might have been in the world's top 10 batsmen. Some going to have all of the top 3, isn't it, in Smith, Labuschagne and Head?
Yeah, look, it's a very good Australian team, it has to be said. I mean, we're now talking about that batting group, but then you have a look at the lot as well. The bowlers have been together for a long time, and you know, if Hazelwood's to play today, and we had this stat in Australia last year, Hazelwood, Stark, Cummins and Lyon have got over 250 Test wickets each, and there's never happened in the history of the game that 4 bowlers in the same team have had that amount of wickets. So look, this team has played well for 4 or 5 years. It's not just been this last 2-year cycle to win the World Test Championship. They've been together for a long time. They've added someone like Cameron Green in there as well. Khawaja's scored the most runs of anyone in the world over the last 12 months and needs to prove himself here in the UK. That's a big challenge for him, and it's a big challenge for David Warner as well at the top of the order. But yeah, look, it's a very well balanced side, and Green adds a lot to it.
On the point about David Warner, Ben Stokes said, look, I'd be lying yesterday if I didn't think that Stuart Broad against David Warner was a thinking in putting Broad into the team. Who was the bowler for you that you thought, oh, here he comes again?
Depended where I was. Well, it certainly wasn't him. It certainly wasn't him.
The part-time off-spinner Pietersen, yeah?
I remember bowling to him at the Wacker one morning. I think it was Michael Vaughan or Freddie said, please come on and just bowl. And I was like, are you joking? I'm going to bowl to Ricky Ponting at the Wacker.
I was more scared than that. No way. I had to face that rubbish, yeah. No, it depended where you were. I mean, English conditions, Darren Gough was probably one that got me out more than anyone. I'm not sure about the current guys. Broadie would have got me out a couple of times. Jimmy would have got me out a couple of times at the end of my career. But, you know, spin was always my Achilles heel, and I got found out a little bit in the subcontinent early on. So, yeah, Harbhajan Singh and Kumble and those guys were the guys that troubled me the most.
And was that a similar thing for you? Because there was a while where the perceived weakness was left arm spin.
Actually, strangely enough, Peter Cyril was the guy that got the better of me in a number of series. I'm doing something about our position on Sunday morning, I think it is, for the telecast, and it's about that one-on-one. And Peter Cyril, he dismissed me. I've seen the numbers, 12 or 13 times, and I only averaged 20 against him. So, yes, there was the perception of left-arm spin, but for some strange reason, I just kept hitting Peter Cyril to second slip. I think he may have caught me a couple of times in a couple of the test matches, but it's one of those where, yeah, you don't think about it, but at the end of your series you get told about it.
Well, you actually do know. I mean, you would have known halfway through that he had you 6 or 8 times. You know that he got you out a few times, and then the battle becomes harder.
Then
right?
It becomes way harder.
Yeah.
Final word from both of you on experiences of playing at this ground, because that place over there come about 3 o'clock, actually probably about 12 o'clock will be quite lively. I imagine you didn't fancy fielding much on the boundary.
No, I stayed at second slip, especially when they had 400 on day one in 2005. I stayed as close to the wicket as I could. No, look, this afternoon and through the course of the 5 days, the atmosphere that's going to be generated around here is going to be something pretty special. And that's the one thing you miss, right, Kev? The one thing you miss from playing is being out there and being involved in that. So we get to sit behind the glass, but I'm sure all the players out in the field will have a great 5 days.
What about UKP, this place? This is the place where you switch it Murley, wasn't it, into the stand? Is that right?
I mean, it is one of the most tremendous atmospheres, and I did see some of the players, or one of the players, talking about the Barmy Army being that 12th man, 13th man, 14th man, and it's so true, because as rowdy as it does get, it's also very fair, and it's fun, and there is humour. When you go to Australia, there's no humour. It's just abuse. yeah, at least there's humour.
Scoreline?
I'm going 3-2 Australia. Excuse me. I can't see too many draws happening unless there's a lot of bad weather somewhere. But even if there is bad weather, the way England have been playing, they're trying to get a result anyway. I just think on balance and the strength of the Aussie bowling attack, I think they'll just pip England over this next 5 weeks.
It's hard to argue against that, actually. As much as I want England to win, my fear is 1, 2 and 3. I hope I am proved wrong at 1, 2 and 3 turn out to be mighty fine players and find their careers. But I just look at that bowling lineup too, and I played with Melbourne Stars for 3-4 seasons, and Scotty Boland, Burrell, I mean, I faced him in the nets. I spent 4 years with the guy. I mean, if he doesn't play today, you must know how good this bowling attack is, because he is a proper bowler. You think he'll play?
To Stark out, do you think?
No, I think it'd be Hazelwood. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately for Josh, he's only played 4 Test matches in the last 2 years. You know, and this current attack when they've been together, although Stark wasn't at his best last week, when this attack's played together, they've been pretty much unbeatable. So, you know, what Boland can give you is a lot with the new ball, but when it gets old, you can't score off him, and he's learnt that from bowling at the MCG. But he'll have his challenges because England will understand where he wants to bowl, and they'll try and attack him and get after him. But that brings Boland into the game as well. So I think they'll go with the same group.
You're 100% right, because I played the shortest form of the game with him for 4 seasons, and you go at him, and he just doesn't miss. And so that's why I just think that bowling lineup, batters win you sponsorships, bowlers win you championships, that Australian bowling lineup is absolutely fantastic. However, I do think that England is a better team with Mo and Ali.
Okay.
Way better.
Gentlemen, pleasure to speak to you. We could speak for hours, but I know you've got to go on air. The boys have both mentioned that game that they played, the first Ashes test here that Kevin played in 2005. England racked up more than 400 on the first day. We would certainly take that again this afternoon.